And so when the new mom has her beautiful baby who is sleeping and she's staring at her child in this vulnerable place, joy, in full joy. This is heart energy. It is fire energy, and it is vulnerable energy. The full joy, it becomes very present that you could lose it. And so what the brain will do to protect you is you get this rehearsal of like, what if my baby dies? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? And so your body and your mind starts to do this rehearsal of what it feels like if something terrible happens, in a way to protect this open-hearted vulnerability you have to love something so much.
Welcome to the world of energy, where science meets spirit. Ancient wisdom merges with cutting-edge knowledge, and the possibilities for a healthier, happier you are endless.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Energy Works. This is Blaine, and I have a solo episode for you today. And my topic is something that I've been chewing on in my mind, or maybe you could say in our gut. We have this language that the more that I study, the more I realize why we say that I was chewing on something, or the ruminating, right? They're animals, the ruminants who they go through several stomachs. They're, chew, this rumination, chewing on it. That's not the topic of today, but I've been doing this about a topic ever since the retreat in Costa Rica that Lauren and I co-led last December. And the group, we were talking about gratitude, which we do in the yogic tradition. And in many traditions, gratitude is just a powerful seed for us, a powerful, healthy seed, a beautiful practice that has been researched quite a bit as something really wonderful we can do for our physical, emotional, and mental health. So we were chatting about gratitude and who has very robust gratitude practices that they lean on for their emotional health, and who struggles with gratitude. And a friend of mine, Anne, who was at the retreat, said something along the lines of, I'm afraid to have too much gratitude because if I do, it'll be taken away from me. And Lauren said, you're afraid you're going to get smote. And I loved that. I don't think I'd ever heard Lauren say smote before. And it was something that really stuck with me. And then Lauren went on to explain, because we had over 30 people in this retreat, that some people who were raised in, it's probably not just the Bible where we get this sense that the gods are going to throw lightning bolts at us and take things away from us and punish us for different things. I know in the Bible is more of a one God system, but you know what I mean? I don't want to say it's just Christianity or the Bible or other religions that use the Bible as one of the texts. I have to believe there are other texts that have something similar. And first of all, this was my friend who I've known for a very, very, very long time. And so I was a little like, I didn't know that about her. It's really fun when friends are on retreats with you or situations like that, because things come up that just never come up in your daily conversation. And you do learn a lot about each other. So it struck me from that point of view. But then I don't have that, even though I very much grew up in church. And actually, I grew up Episcopal. When I met Anne back in, I think, 1999, we became friends in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she was Episcopal. I don't know if that's how she grew up in the flavor of Christianity, but I was very steeped in it. We went to church every Sunday. We went to church every Wednesday. I went to church camp, vacation Bible school, Sunday school, all the rituals. That church building was like half of my life growing up in there. And so even with all that, I've never had this fear of gratitude that if I have so much of a strong feeling of joy and love and appreciation that, in some kind of punishing way, it will be taken away from me, and that I need to temper my gratitude. One thing in the study of Chinese medicine 5-element theory that I have reflected on quite a bit is I am a primary metal element, and the emotion associated with metal element is grief. And it's the end of the cycle. So it's letting go. Even the end of the cycle, the ultimate letting go. It's the end of, the cycle begins in water, and then it goes to wood and fire and earth and then metal, and that's the death. That's the end. And then you start again in water. And I'll first say, because I think it's a key point of what I want to share in this podcast, that the more I study the 5 elements, the more comfortable I am with the life cycle, the less fear I have around the life cycle. Maybe some of this comes with age too, but the deeper I study the whole cycle of life through the end and the letting go and the needing to trust what happens next, the more and more comfortable I am with it. So as a person who feels grief and the end and letting go pretty deeply, the first thought I had when I really reflected on what my friend Anne said and her fear of being smote was that nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. We are all going to have to let go. There's not a single thing in the universe that lasts forever. And so to me, it's more of a reason to have gratitude. I feel so much gratitude for things right now because I know that they're going to go away. And so maybe the dirty window has been cleaned in front of my eyes to think that things will last forever. It's very present to me that they're not going to last forever. So if God's going to throw the lightning bolt at me and take something away from me, that makes me want to love it harder and have gratitude for it more, because that is the nature of the life cycle, that we're going to have to let go. So this has been since December. I've been ruminating on this a little bit. And then I've been a fan of Brené Brown for years and years, probably decades, a very long time. And recently, something that I had learned from her in the past popped into my awareness kind of under this umbrella. And Brené has this term which she calls foreboding joy. And she's researched this, and it is lockstep in gratitude, foreboding joy. And what that is, it's our protection measure. And so when the new mom has her beautiful baby who is sleeping and she's staring at her child in this vulnerable place, joy, in full joy, this is heart energy, it is fire energy, and it is vulnerable energy, the full joy. It becomes very present that you could lose it. And so what the brain will do to protect you is you get this rehearsal of like, what if my baby dies? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? And so your body and your mind starts to do this rehearsal of what it feels like if something terrible happens, in a way to protect this open-hearted vulnerability you have to love something so much. So in the words of Brené Brown, it's foreboding joy. It's being smote, right? I can't love something so much or it could be taken away from me. I must temper it. So the mind starts to create all these scenarios in self-protection. So Brené does studies on this, and her subjects are people who can really lean into joy and gratitude, especially people who have been through a lot of trauma. And so Brené interviewed a bunch of them. How, you've been through these terrible things. How is it so easy for you to lean into joy? And the end of her research was that they practice gratitude. Their gratitude practice keeps them in joy, even though they are survivors or in the face of great trauma. So we come back to gratitude and the practice of gratitude, and what Brené teaches from what she learned from interviewing these people is when you're feeling this vulnerable, open-hearted joy and your mind wants to turn off the faucet of joy by giving you a terrible thought or a fear so that you can practice it, what you need to do right then is gratitude practice. Right then, lean into the gratitude practice. And of course, like anything else, the more and more we practice gratitude, the more easily that we can do it when we feel these triggers and we know that we want to. So this is very connected in Chinese medicine 5-element theory. So water, which is where fear is, controls fire, which is where joy is, and fire controls metal, which is where grief is. When we are in the moment of feeling this joy for something, the fire, it's getting big. That joy is the emotion of the fire element. And so water, fear, can rush up to try to mitigate the joy. Out of balance, water is fear. So we have this relationship between the water element and the fire element. And then the metal element is where we can get out of balance with this. We don't want to feel the grief. And so we have these protection measures. And again, metal is rigid, it is structured. So we have this protection. So we don't want to feel the grief when it really happens. So we're going to practice the grief now. So when it really happens, it won't be so bad. Fire softens metal. It melts metal. And so fire, the joy, can come in and soften up this grief so that we can let that go and be in the full presence of joy. And I want to come back to the full cycle of life and death, because part of this is not trusting metal's ability to handle the full cycle. You cannot outsmart grief by withholding your gratitude. I want to say that one more time. You cannot outsmart grief by withholding your gratitude. And when it comes to the full life cycle, I'll add one more thing here before I wrap it up. Some of you may have seen this. It's been in the news lately. If you're in certain circles, I think you know that the human race, definitely in the United States, have an obsession with longevity right now, which is really, we don't want to die, or we don't want to die too soon. We want to somehow outsmart death with doing a whole bunch of things to ourselves. And in Las Vegas, they created, I think they were called the Enhanced Games. It was like a mini Olympics. And they created a whole stadium in Las Vegas for this. And it's called the Enhanced Games because the athletes were all supposed to use performance enhancing drugs. So you take a bunch of athletes, and these are athletes who've been in the Olympics. They're well-known athletes. And so you say, go to town, take all the performance enhancing drugs, and then you're going to go compete against each other and see who wins. So they built a track and they built a pool and all of these things so that athletes could compete. And it was a big amount of money. I think the winner got $1 million, but there was lots of other money for other, second place, third place, that sort of thing. And to be fair, Olympic athletes are in debt for the most part. There's been books written about this, movies written about this. I think one of them is called like The True Cost of Gold or The Weight of Gold or something like that. But the average athlete in the Olympics has gone $100,000 in debt to be in the Olympics. And so I am not judging the athletes for participating in this. The ones, they need money, they can get well paid, they work very hard, they should be paid. So it's not about that. And the winners of this are the people who sell the drugs. And that's really what all of this is about, is a big showcase of all of these drugs that have not been through human trials or anything like that, but I guess are legal. And so, never trust a drug pusher, I guess. But that's maybe my bias. But anyway, that's really what this is all about. So it was a big spectacle. Some people were calling it the clavicular Olympics because the clavicles, the collarbones on these athletes were so prominent. And it was just quite a show of physical bodies. But what this is all about is selling performance-enhancing drugs to people who are aging and don't like it. I mean, we all don't like it, right? The quarterback who could throw the touchdown pass, who's now 60 years old, who wants to do that again. The lure of taking these drugs and being able to be physical again and run and hike and ride your bike and do all of these things that you loved that you maybe can't do as easily anymore, it's quite lucrative. It is a lot of money in this. But it all circles around this fear of death and not trusting the entire life cycle. That was a little bit of a side note, but as I've been kind of seeing this unfold, it's been on my mind in just the piece of the life cycle here. And, a part of fear and joy and grief. So I want to give you a tool, which I know you have this tool again. I know you've received this tool before. You are probably receiving this tool again, but it is a tool you can use when you are in that moment that you're afraid of loss. You're in foreboding joy, as Brene Brown would say. There's a saying that I heard a long time ago, and the saying is, you cannot be in anxiety and gratitude at the same time. And when I heard that saying, I didn't know. I'm like, you can't be in anxiety and gratitude at the same time? I wasn't sure about that. But I explored it. This is years ago. I've explored it a lot, and I can say with great faith that you cannot be in anxiety and gratitude at the same time. When you're feeling anxiety is the out of balance emotion for fire. Balanced fire is in joy. Unbalanced fire is in anxiety. They are two sides of the same coin. And when you're in anxiety and you switch your thoughts to, I have a little kitten right now. I cannot think of my kitten and have all that heart love and playfulness and everything. My anxiety just melts when I fill my heart with the joy I feel of my kitten. And we can do this with anything, gratitude for anything in the house, gratitude for abundance, gratitude for whatever you have. I can say, I can't do it. I didn't believe it was true, but when I am really in gratitude, I cannot also be in anxiety. So when we are in the foreboding joy, when water's coming in to temper our fire, that fear or the anxiety, I think you could also say you can't be in fear and gratitude at the same time. You can't be in anxiety and gratitude at the same time. I believe they are both true. So what happens when we're in this fear or anxiety is that our energy goes to the amygdala, our fight or flight, our stress response. The blood leaves the forebrain and goes to the amygdala. In the forebrain is where our gratitude lives. And so if you're struggling with this, I know you've seen this before, you can hold your hand over your forehead, which literally these are neurovascular points in your forehead. You are using your hands to vascularize the forebrain. Vascularize. You are bringing blood up to the forebrain, and that is where you will find gratitude, the prefrontal cortex. So the takeaways from this, if any of this resonated with you and you have the foreboding joy or the fear of smitten, smote, whatever word you want to use, practice your gratitude. And if you need to pull yourself out of your fear or anxiety, you can hold your hand over your forehead and bring yourself into gratitude, and the other non-supportive emotions will start to dissolve. And the more and more you practice this, the more and more it becomes a habit, the more you can be in full heartfelt joy without these protective mechanisms coming in trying to help you. That is all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you next time on Energy Works. Alrighty, Energy fans, that's a wrap on another positively charged episode of Energy Works. Lauren, this is the part where we get to use our energy puns.
It's been electrifying, hasn't it, Blaine? We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
If you're feeling amped up and you want to keep your energy flowing, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform.
And we'd love to hear from you, so please take a moment to leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to deliver content that resonates, so light up our inbox.
And spark a conversation with your friends to tell them about us. And we'll see you next time on Energy Works.